G'day guys, this is Tia and welcome back to another PTS video. This one I'm literally going to be going over every single legendary effect in the game, including the ones that are already available to us in the live game, as well as the new ones that are currently being shown in the PTS. And what I'll be doing here is giving my own personal feedback for how I think all of these effects should be buffed and changed to bring more of a sense of balance and diversity to the game. I think you guys are going to like this. It's going to be super quick fire styled because there are a lot of effects and I don't want this video to take up too much of your time. Also, please keep in mind that this is just my opinion as someone who has thousands of hours on this game and over 2 accounts and 10 characters all up from Xbox to PC that are all above level 250, my highest character being almost level 400. I do have both high health builds and low health builds as well as experimental builds that are trying the lesser desired legendary effects. So I've played around with this stuff quite a bit and I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, the changes that are in this video are just what makes sense to me to make this game more interesting and balanced. So if you do disagree, then feel free to leave your own constructive criticism on what you would change down below in the comments. But aside from that, let's get started. So firstly, we will be covering the legendary weapon effects. We will be going down the list that is on the wiki from the 1st star effects to the 2nd star to the 3rd star, so that you can follow along easily. So firstly, we have anti-armors. Now this is good as it is, it's perfect pretty much. It's at 50% armor penetration, which I think is in a good spot, but we do need to make sure that it works against all resistances. Currently I'm not sure if it does work against cryo, fire and poison resistance. If it doesn't, then that needs to be fixed, but aside from that, anti-armor is in a good spot. Then we've got a combo. We've got assassins, exterminators, ghoul slayers, hunters, and zealots, as well as mutant slayers and troubleshooters. These have all been increased from 30% to 50%, and assassins has been increased massively from 10% to 50% as well, which is awesome. That's a step in the right direction. But I do think that needs to be increased more so. I think it needs to be made to do 60% extra damage, because after all, you are targeting a specific enemy only. So it should be dealing slightly more damage towards that specific enemy in particular, at least more so than other weapons, because as of right now, I see absolutely no reason to use any of those weapons, because I can deal more damage with other things like Bloodied, Junkies, technically anti-armors, aristocrats, and that does damage against everything. So if I wanted to deal more damage to a specific thing, using one of these legendary effects, I would expect it to do a lot more damage than just 50%. I hope you understand what I'm trying to put across here. Then we've got Berserkers. Honestly, this deserves more of a buff. Currently, it gives you 50% extra damage while you are at 0 damage resistance. This needs to be buffed to 95% extra damage while you're at 0 damage resistance, to make it be on par with Bloodied. Possibly make it do even more than 95% damage, as it is much harder to play a effective Berserkers build than it is to play a Bloodied one. Because just being at low health, there are synergistic perks and armor that you can equip to make it easier for you to survive, as you've seen no doubt in my builds. I'm Bloodied and I'm hard to be killed. But if you play a Berserkers build, you've got to run around with 0 damage resistance, and that's a lot harder to make you survive than just being at low health. Trust me, go ahead for yourself and try to play a Berserkers build of any kind, and you'll see that it is much harder and you don't get as much bang for your buck because the damage is just shit. So yeah, in conclusion for that one, increase it to, at the very minimum, 95% extra damage while you're at 0 damage resistance. Then we've got Bloodied. This is the topic of the fucking town at the moment. In my opinion, Bloodied stays the same. The effect itself is fine. It's 95% extra damage while you're below 5% health, and obviously that scales per 5% going backwards, but it's just the synergies that complement it that need a nerf, if anything. I mean, if you look at it this way, you've got Bloodied, dealing 95% extra damage while you're at 5% health. It's very hard to stay alive when you're that low health. But then on top of it, you've got Adrenal Reaction, which grants 50% extra damage, and then you've got Nerd Rage, which grants 20% extra damage while you're at low health. So the effect itself is fine in my opinion, it's just the synergies that add so much more on top of it, if you get what I mean. So all the other effects in this game don't have such complementing synergistic perks or effects in the game, but if they did, then they could be on par with Bloodied. In my opinion, everything needs a buff. But yeah, anyway. Moving on to Executioners, this should be changed slightly. It should still allow you to deal 50% extra damage to enemies below 50% health. That should not change, but it should have an added effect. It should then also deal a total of 75% extra damage to enemies below 25% health. This would be a good meta change to combat Bloodied players in PvP, and also help do far more DPS to boss enemies. Because if you think about it, the boss health bars are massive, and when they get down to that low bit, under 25% health, this would help massively. So basically, when you get an enemy below 50%, switch to your executioners, you'll be dealing 50% extra damage. And then when they get below 25% health, you'll be dealing 75% extra damage. I think it's just natural progression. It's a huge buff for executioners, makes it more viable, makes it more desirable, which obviously is the point of this whole thing. In similar fashion, we've got Furious. This needs to have a higher damage cap. It should max out at 75% extra damage once all the necessary consecutive hits are done, instead of 50%. It's just another natural buff. I think that it should be way better than what it currently is, because every time I see Furious, I don't want it. I don't want to ever use it. But with this increase, obviously you have to hit the consecutive shots. It would be much more valuable and more desirable. So basically, every consecutive hit will increase your damage by 5%, capping out at 75%. I think that works, and I think that's fair. Then we've got Instigating. Now, this doesn't need a nerf or a buff, it just needs to be fixed. Because as of right now, the damage bonus isn't actually double damage, it's a fucking lie. What it does is it's made it additive instead of multiplicative, so you're not actually dealing double damage for that first shot when an enemy is at full health, which is fucking lame. Make it actually deal double damage, that would make sense. Otherwise it's just a fucking lie. I don't know why they've done that, but yeah, fix Instigating. Then we've got Junkies. In my opinion, this largely should stay the same. I mean, it gives you 50% extra damage and you can use it at any health. You can use it at Bloodied level, or you can use it as full health level. Either way, you get that 50% bonus with 5 addictions. But if anything, it could use a little bit of a buff to compete with other things like Bloodied and anti-armor, because as of right now, Junkies is kind of on the back burner for desirability. It's not that powerful at the moment since the additive damage formula change. So with that being said, I think either they should turn it back to multiplicative, or they should just allow us to increase the damage cap at 100%. And how you would achieve that is by obviously having 10 addictions instead of 5. So yeah, I think that's just another natural progression to make it more powerful. But anyways, then we have Medics. Now this needs a massive buff. The effective range needs to be massively increased. If you don't know what I mean by that, basically you need to be really close to the user of this weapon for it to actually heal your teammates. And too close is too close in my opinion. It needs to be increased, the radius needs to be effectively doubled so that we don't have to be sticking to each other like glue, sticking shoulder to shoulder with our teammates to actually use this effect. And in addition to that, we should also possibly look into increasing the heal effect from 5% to 10%. That would just be a nice little bonus to make this more desirable and more effective. So yeah. Then we've got Mutants. This should be capped out at 50% extra damage instead of what it currently is at. So basically, you'll have 10 mutations, so 5% damage per mutation, obviously capping out at 50 with 10 mutations. As each mutation comes with its own negatives in of itself, I think that would be working fantastic. They're on the right track with this, they've already buffed it so that it works this way, but 25% is too low. I think it should be increased to 50, so that it is at least on the same level as Junkies and Aristocrats and other things like that. Make it at least 50% Bethesda. Then we've got Nocturnal. Now this is good as it is, thank you for the buff, it works well now. Then we have Quad. Nothing needs to be changed here, it does exactly what it says it's going to do. It quadruples your ammo capacity. That's cool. Leave it alone, it's fine. Then we've got Stalkers. Now, what a useless effect. This thing is absolute dog shit. Dog shit, okay? Stalkers needs to be completely revamped, okay? Forget the whole 100% accuracy bonus at 50% extra AP cost. That's fucking stupid. And it doesn't work on melee in case you haven't noticed, Bethesda, so you've got a fair amount of Stalkers melee weapons out there that are just a wasted opportunity. Anyway, the way I think Stalkers should work is it should be revamped so that it gives you a bonus to sneak damage. Then it would fill a role nothing else currently does. It would be the only thing that would synergize with stealth builds. Like, more so than Bloodied, which is a really cool concept. And this way it could be used on melee as well. Let's say it would give you somewhere in the vicinity of 1.5 sneak attack damage. make it do this, Bethesda. It would, like I said, fill a different role, fill a niche that isn't currently filled. It would be beneficial to stealth players so that they would stop using Bloodied or Quad or anti-armor, whatever have you. Just as long as you're in caution or hidden, you'll deal with this 1.5 sneak attack multiplier that will stack with this sneak damage perk cards. I think it should work this way. If you disagree, let me know. Then we have Suppressors. This should decrease the target's damage output by at least 35% and then last 10 seconds to be considered useful as a debuff item. Not much else needs to be said there. It's kind of lackluster and undesirable. Then we have Two Shot. This should have its base damage increased by 50% instead of 25% what it currently does deal, and then make the accuracy penalty a little bit more substantial just to compensate. Overall, it's a buff. It increases the damage by double that it currently does, and yeah, I think that would work fantastic. Now Vampires, this one is a little bit controversial. I think personally that this should heal you by 2% of your weapon's damage output, instead of just 2% overall. So that would mean that it gives you a fair healing percentage no matter what weapon you use this on. That way the slow firing high damage weapons like hunting rifles, black powder weapons, broadsiders, stuff like that would actually be fair and good to use with this effect. Meanwhile, the automatic high fire rate weapons will virtually remain the same and not be changed. This change will basically just mean that this will be more of an effective legendary effect for high damage, slow firing weapons so that they aren't missing out. Then we have Aristocrats. Now this should be decreased from 50% to 33% extra damage. It's not hard to hold caps on your character, so there is effectively no drawback, and honestly I see no reason for this. It's kind of a little bit dumb to make it on par with things like Junkies and Anti-Armor that have an actual drawback. Then we have Juggernaut. Now this should be buffed immensely. This should grant a 75% extra damage increase while above 95% health, instead of the pissy little 25% damage increase that it currently gives in the PTS. I see no reason why it should only grant 25% extra damage while requiring you to be above a certain health threshold, especially since other legendary effects grant a higher damage bonus but less trouble to the player that can also be used at full health. It just doesn't make sense for it to be less damage than others. I mean, look at it this way. You're going through the trouble of making sure you stay above 95% health to use Juggernauts, and it's only giving you 25% extra damage. Meanwhile, you could be using something like Junkies or Anti-Armor to be gaining that bonus damage no matter your health, and that bonus damage is more than Juggernauts gives. So I think that this should be a polar opposite to Bloodied. I think that full health players, fully full health players should have a bonus here. It would be worthwhile and would diversify the game in such a good way. Then we've got Heavyweight. This is another gimmicky effect that's been added in with the PTS. I think it should remain as it is, 50% extra damage while above 350 pounds. Feels a unique playstyle that could be hilarious. I see nothing wrong here. But then we've got Gourmands. This should match Aristocrats and grant 33% extra damage instead of a 25% extra, as keeping your hunger and thirst topped up isn't that hard, but it's also not hard to keep your bottle caps, so I think Gourmands and Aristocrats should be the same here, dealing the same at 33% extra damage. They're just kind of gimmicky and they have no drawbacks, so I mean, they're easy. They should just be 33, less than the others in my opinion. Then we're moving on to the second stars. Firstly, Bashers is good at 50%, see no problems here. Then Explosives, this is good as it is, needs no changing except for obviously the way it works on legacy weapons, that should be fixed. Then anyway, we have Hitmans, which used to grant a 10% damage increase while aiming, now it's at 25%, that's a good buff, thank you for that. Then we've got Lucky, which grants 50% extra VATS crit damage. This is a good thing, doesn't need a change, doesn't need a buff, doesn't need a nerf, so keep it as it is. Then we have Rapid for 25% faster fire rate, it's good as it is, needs no change. VATS Enhance for 50% VATS hit chance is really good, I like this change, it got buffed from 33 to 50, I like to see that, makes it more valuable. Then we have Faster Melee Speed. This grants 40% faster melee speed, it's good as it is, doesn't need a buff, doesn't need a nerf. Then we have Extra Pair Attack Damage. This grants 40% extra damage while pair attacking. Again, doesn't need a buff, doesn't need a nerf, it's good as it is in my opinion. Then we have what is called Reposting. This makes you reflect 50% damage back while you are blocking. No one really ever uses this on melee weapons, so I think it should be increased to something along the lines of 75%. Be a bit more useful, make it more valuable and desirable. I think that would be a good change. Then we have Crippling. Now, this makes your enemies take 50% extra limb damage, and what that actually means is that you do 50% extra crippling damage to the limb's health bar. It doesn't actually do extra 50% damage while shooting limbs or anything like that. It's just more of a easier way to cripple limbs. But anyways, this is pretty useless in most situations, and I would honestly rather have any other effect as my second star, so maybe this should be buffed to 75% or add another crippling effect to make it more of a utility thing, make it easier to cripple enemies. I don't know, it just needs to be increased because as of right now, like I said, I would rather use literally anything else. Then we've got Last Shot. This is good as it is, I like this, I can't wait to use this on things like a double barrel shotgun. Maybe though we could increase its chance to happen from 25% to 33%, so it would be a 1 in 3 chance to happen. I think that would be a little bit more fair, but I don't know, I'm not the game designer. I'll leave that up to Bethesda. Then we have Steady. This is good as it is, 25% extra damage while standing still is a nice bonus, I like it. Then we have Inertial. This is good as it is and I think it works fantastically. You gain 15 AP back per kill, so it's a great effect, keep it as it is, awesome. Then moving on to the third stars. Firstly we have Lucky, it's good as it is, it fills up your critical meter by 15%, this is fine, doesn't need any changing. Moving on we have Nimble. This is terrible and doesn't actually work, it's bugged. So firstly it needs to be fixed so that it actually increases your movement speed while aiming, but in saying that, it's just a terrible effect. I would rather use almost anything else, so maybe if we rework it to do something else, or maybe increase it to 200% with a buff, it would make it more desirable, but honestly, it's a fucking terrible legendary effect, no one wants Nimble on their weapons. Then we have the effects of +1 perception, +1 endurance, +1 strength, and +1 agility. These are good, but I feel like they should be buffed. They should add +2 instead of +1 to be a bit more valuable and desirable, as most of them are kinda useless. Like, I'm sure most of us would rather anything else other than +1 perception or +1 agility on our weapons, but maybe if it was increased to +2, or maybe even +3, that would be more incentive to use it. Then we have Rapid, which increases your reload speed by 15%. This is good as it is, needs no change. Moving on we have Resilient. This grants you 250 damage resistance while you're reloading. It's kind of useless given how the diminishing returns work for damage resistance, especially since it's only there for the duration of you reloading. And I dislike this as there are better options for a 3rd star effect on a weapon. Maybe we could make it more valuable by turning it into a % damage reduction to all sources while reloading. Maybe 10%. So while you are reloading, you will gain a 10% damage reduction to all incoming sources. This will be huge and will make it actually valuable, will make it powerful, and will actually make me change my mind on whether or not I will want to use it. Then similarly we have Steedfast. This gives you 50 DR while you're aiming and is kind of pointless for the same reasons stated as before. Give it the same upgrade, maybe convert it into granting 5% damage reduction while you're aiming to make it more actually useful. Then we have VATS Enhance for 25% less VATS cost. It's good as it is, nothing needs to be changed here. Then we have the first in a long line of legendary effects that are all called Cavaliers. I don't know why, but there's like 5 legendary effects in this game that in the codes are actually called Cavaliers. Anyways, this one's the one for weapons that makes you take 15% less damage while blocking. It's kind of just meh, just in general as there are better options. Maybe increase it to 25% or maybe 35% to make it more desirable, as there are not many reasons to block with melee, so this could be a good effect if buffed. Then we have the take 40% less damage while pair attacking effect that is also called Cavaliers. It's good as it is, but if anything I would increase it to 50% to make it more desirable, as there are better options for melee weapons, so yeah, give that a slight buff, why not? Then we have Lightweight. This grants the 90% reduced weight effect. This is good as it is, except it needs to be fixed so that it actually affects weapon modifications as well as the weapon's base weight. And if you don't know what I mean here, basically if you have this 90% reduced weight effect, that does not affect modifications. I mean, have you ever used a fully modded out handmade with this effect? It still weighs like 12 pounds, so yeah, fix that. Then we have Ghosts. This is kind of useless, but grants a cool niche to fill. Sure, why not? I'm excited to see how it will work with Cloaking. Also, we now have the durable effect for weapons. This makes your weapons 50% more durable. It's good as it is, see no changes needed here. Now, that is it for the weapons. We have covered every single legendary effect in the weapon category, all 3 stars. So let's move on to the armor. Same deal as before, we will be covering all star effects and we will be using the list that is on the wiki. Let's go. So yeah, let's start off with the first stars. We have another combination here. We've got Assassins, Exterminators, Ghoul Slayers, Hunters, Mutant Slayers, Troubleshooters, and Zealots. They are all in a good place, they all grant 15% damage reduction to their respective enemies, and I'm glad Assassins got buffed to match the others. They're all perfect, they all work exactly how I'd expect them to, so I think there's nothing that needs to be changed. Then we have Auto Stim. Now this is kind of pointless given there is a perk called Born Survivor, as well as a Power Armor chest piece mod that fills the same role. So yeah, this could be reworked to be more of a medic support build effect. Maybe you should be incentivized to use this armor piece with the perk card called Team Medic. So in addition to the armor automatically injecting a stim pack when the user falls below 25% health, it should also make your stim packs heal at a faster rate. The same way Field Surgeon works, but obviously they would work together and stack together. Something along those lines to make it more beneficial for medic builds wanting to keep the team tapped up on health. I don't know, I think that's a good idea. Let me know what you think on Auto Stim. Then we have Bolstering. This is in a good place. It grants 35 damage resistance and energy resistance when you're at low health. Nothing needs to be changed here. Then we've got Chameleon. This works, but it is undesirable in comparison to other effects, especially unyielding since you can get better stealth potential from the agility bonus there. So I feel that it should offer more synergy with stealth. Maybe increasing your stealth potential by 2% per piece that is equipped, or something along those lines. Then we've got Cloaking. Honestly, this effect fucking sucks, but it can be a unique combo with ghosts. Not sure how it could be improved, maybe it should also increase stealth in dark areas, similar to the shadowed effect. I don't know man, Cloaking, it fucking sucks. But yeah, let's move on. We've got Life Saving. This is good and it works great, nothing needs to be changed here. It revives you when you go down, or has a chance to at least, so yeah, it works fine. Then we have the Mutants effect. Now this should be increased to match the same amount of damage resistance as Vanguards and Bolstering, so that you hit 35 energy and damage resistance while you have 5 mutations, just to make it more fair and balanced. Then we have Nocturnal. Now I think this works fine after the buff they gave in the PTS, so with that considered, I think this works fine now. And then we have the Regenerating Legendary effect. This is pretty garbage. It needs to be buffed to also regenerate health while in combat, like a less effective version of the Solar Armor effect. Otherwise, I don't know how else you could increase this. It's kind of pointless and no one wants to fucking use it. Then we have Unyielding, and I'm a little bit on the fence with this one because on the one hand, I can see how powerful it is in comparison to everything else on this list. I mean, why would you use anything else when Unyielding presents so many bonuses? But then again, I also think that it's great as it is and everything else should be buffed to meet it. So with that mindset, everything that I've already mentioned on this list, all the first star effects should be buffed to make them worthwhile to use if you don't want to use Unyielding. But with that being said, using Unyielding comes with a price. You are basically one shot away from dying every single time. You're so low health and you're very easy to kill on regular armor. But times have changed. You can now have Unyielding on Power Armor, which is a very big problem because Power Armor has emergency protocols, which makes you take 50% less damage while you're below 20% health. So using Unyielding on Power Armor would basically mean it's all positives and no negatives because with emergency protocols, it's harder to kill you than if you were at full health. So I do think that it needs to be nerfed on Power Armor. Only on Power Armor. As far as I'm concerned, it works great for regular armor. It gives us low health players a pretty sizable buff that makes our playstyle work terrific. But when it comes to Power Armor, I think it does need to be nerfed. Maybe grant us +2 of each effect or maybe +1. I don't know. I'm not a game designer, thank fuck, because this is a hard choice here. So many people use Unyielding and so many people want to use it because it will be extremely powerful for Power Armor. And then on the other hand, a lot of people can see that and want the game to be balanced. Which is why I'm on the fence for this one because I love it and I see the problems with it. So, I don't know. This effect could potentially be nerfed on just Power Armor or be nerfed overall. Either way, I foresee something happening to this and that's gonna suck, but oh well, moving on. Next up we have Vanguards. This is also in a good place, granting 35 damage resistance and energy resistance while you're at full health. I see no changes that need to be made here. Then we have Weightless, which reduces the weight of your armor, and it also synergizes with the Chameleon mutation, which is awesome. But It should be buffed to be more desirable and effective. Maybe while you are cloaked via the chameleon mutation, you should gain 35 damage resistance and energy resistance per armor piece to also put it in line with other things like Vanguards and Bolstering, and to also make it more desirable. Then we have Aristocrats, which is very weird. It grants you 20 DR and ER to regular armor, and then 35 DR and ER to pair armor, while above 29,000 caps. Now my only feedback here is that you should just make pair armor and regular armor both gain 35 DR and ER. I see no need to make the pair armor a little bit more tanky than the regular armor with this effect. Doesn't really make sense to me. Next up we have Heavyweight. This is also good as it is, granting 20 DR and ER to regular armor and 35 for the pair armor, while above 350 pounds. Same feedback as before though. Just make them both the same, there's no reason why regular armor should receive less of a benefit than the pair armor. And then finally for the first star effects we have Overreaders. This grants 6% damage reduction to all damage sources, which is crazy. It honestly needs to be nerfed and converted to grant damage resistance and energy resistance while full hunger and thirst is achieved, instead of the straight damage reduction to everything. Make it grant the same DR and ER as Aristocrats and Heavyweight. Otherwise there will be no point in using Aristocrats, Heavyweight, Vanguard or Bolstering, as this will trump all of them and completely blow them out of the water, because 6% damage reduction is significantly better than 35 DR per piece. I'm not sure if you guys know how the damage calculation or damage reduction formula calculation works in this game, but percentage-based protection is far more powerful than DR-based protection, and if there's one effect that grants the percentage, there's absolutely no need to use Vanguards or Bolstering or any other DR-related defensive options. So in my opinion, one of two things needs to happen here. Overreaders should be nerfed to be the same as Vanguards and Bolstering, or everything else should be buffed to be the same as Overreaders, meaning Vanguards will offer 6% damage reduction per piece while at full health, Bolstering 6% damage reduction per piece while at low health, etc, etc, etc. It would increase the desirability of all of those and make them on par with Overreaders. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of you see where I'm coming from here. It makes absolutely no sense to have one defensive option that is just so much more powerful than all the others. And then we have the second star effects for armor. Firstly, we're going to be talking about another grouping. We've got +1 to agility, strength, charisma, endurance, intelligence, luck, and perception. Same as what I said for the weapons, these should all be increased to 2, or maybe even 3, to be more desirable and give them more of a bonus. I see no reason why it should remain at just 1, when there are so many other more valuable second star effects. And then we have Antiseptic. Now this just fucking sucks, this effect is dog shit, it sucks immensely. This should be removed entirely, I see no redeeming qualities, especially since it doesn't even work properly. So remove it or overhaul it completely into something good. Potentially, that something good could be something like this. Make it grant damage resistance to enemies that are diseased, like 5% damage reduction per piece at least. Then it will have some sort of leg to stand on and be at least somewhat valuable. Then we've got another grouping. 25 rad resistance, 25 poison resistance, and then the new ones, we've got 25 cryo resistance and 25 fire resistance. They are all good and are in a good place, but they can be improved. I recommend instead of granting 25 to each respective resistance, it should grant a 5% damage reduction to their respective resistance that they do want to resist, to make it more powerful and desirable, because as I've been saying in this video, just having the numbered resistance effect is far less powerful than just having it be percentage based. So yeah, 25 rad resistance should be changed to reduce radiation damage by 5%, same with the poison, cryo and fire, it should all be changed to reduce their respective elemental damage resisting by 5%. But anyways, then we have powered. Now this increases your AP refresh speed and is honestly very powerful. It's the most powerful second star effect and it is the most desired second star effect. I mean, who do you know out there that wants to use anything else other than powered? Exactly. It's fucking powerful. It's in the name. It's powered. Which is why I recommend that it should be nerfed at least a little bit to make it more in line with everything else on this list so that everything else can be a little bit more desirable and we can have a little bit more diversity. Then we have Hardy, which grants 10% less damage to explosives. It's kind of pointless given fireproof is already a thing, and that makes you take almost 0 damage from all explosions anyway, just that alone, so I see no reason why this should even be a thing in the first place for PvE situations. However, for PvP, I can see this being immensely useful, taking 10% less explosive damage per piece, maxing out at 50%, including fireproof and then the dense chest mod. I can see this being a good way to combat legacy weapons and explosive weapons in PvP for the moment until they are fixed. So yeah, this does have a leg to stand on, it's just a little bit useless in PvE. Then we have what's called Gluttons. It's ultimately disappointing and a waste of space. I see the synergy here for Overreaders and Gourmand, but this is not needed at all and will only dilute the drop pool further. Just remove it from the PTS, remove it from the live game. We don't need it, and I'm sure most of us don't fucking want it. Then we have the third star effects. Firstly, we have Acrobats. This is good. It reduces falling damage by 50%. If you have 2 pieces, you take 0% falling damage, which is awesome. So it's good as it is. No changes needed. And then we have Cavaliers. Yes, another one. This one reduces your damage while blocking by 15%. It's good as it is. Nothing needs to change. And then next we have another Cavaliers. This is the one I'm sure everyone is aware of. This one reduces your damage while sprinting by 15%. It is good as it is. No changes needed. Similarly, we have Sentinels, which grants 15% damage reduction while standing still. Again, it's good as it is, and I like it, needs no changes. Then next we have what's called Divers. This grants the ability to breathe underwater. It's ultimately useless, but good as is, I guess. Maybe it should be buffed to also grant some other bonuses while you're actually submerged in the water, like increased resistances or health regeneration. Something along those lines, and maybe then it could be used in tandem with Aqua Boy, so that it's actually useful? I don't know, because right now, it's horse crap. And then we have Durability, which grants 50% extra durability on your armor. Nothing else needs to be said, it's in a good spot. And then we have Improved Sneaking, which makes you harder to detect while sneaking. It's great as it is, I love it, I love this effect. But there's one problem with it. Currently, it does not matter if you wear 1 piece or 2 pieces or 3 armor pieces with this effect, only one will be taken into account as it does not stack with each other. And what 1 piece does is make you 15% harder to detect. So basically it just increases your sneak potential by 15%. Now what I would like to see here is for them to nerf it firstly. Calm down guys. This is good. What I want them to do is nerf it to 5% and then allow us to stack it. So that would mean that it would actually matter if we have a full set of harder to detect. So what this would mean is if you have 5 pieces, a full armor set of harder to detect, you would have 25% better sneaking potential because they all stack 5%, 5 by 5 equals 25. Come on guys. Yeah, so I think that it could be improved that way. It would allow it to be more dynamic and actually used on multiple armor pieces. But yeah, anyway, apart from that, I love this effect and I would like to see it improved in the way I said. Then we have basically another combo. All of the reduced weight effects are good as they are, including the effects for reduced weight on weapons, chems, junk, food, ammo, etc. Nothing needs to change here, they're all good as they are. And then we have the reduced limb damage effect. It's good as it is, granting 15% less damage to limbs. I see no problems here, it's good as it is. And then we have the Safecrackers legendary effect. Honestly, I see no reason why this is in the game, it's terrible, it just makes it easier for you to lockpick locks. But since it is here, I suppose we should try to improve it. The way I think it should be improved is it should grant you more of a chance to find caps or just better loot in locked containers, something along those lines. I know that they can alter the loot tables in containers with this effect, so why not? And then we have the new effects. Firstly, we have Doctors, which makes your Stimpax, Radix, and Radaway 5% more effective per piece, totaling 25% if you get a full set of this. Which is amazing. I'm excited for this effect, it's going to be amazing for medic support builds. And then we have Dissipating, which is disappointing. I think this effect fucking sucks. It removes radiation while outside of combat. I think at the very least it should be buffed to work inside of combat as well. It'd be a nice combo to use with the rads. And then we have the elemental melee reflection effects like Burning, Toxic, Electrified, and Frozen. All of these are good, I approve of them all, I can't wait to use them. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is my suggestions. Sorry once again for trying to rush through each effect, but there was a lot of them, and I was trying to get through it as quickly as possible. Anyway, again, if you agree or disagree and have a different opinion than me, be sure to voice it down below and let me know what you think. Just don't be a dickhead or you will be treated as such. That's going to do it for me. A massive shout out to all my current Patreons. You legends help fuel the content on this channel, so thank you for your support. If you'd like to support me on Patreon or become a channel member, Be sure to check that out in the description, along with my other social medias. And be sure to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed. I've been here, and I'll catch us in the next one. Welcome to Valhalla.